Welcome to Faith Written Forward. Valerie Juillerat's story began with a spiritual dream, a dark storm, an evil presence, and a cry for help, Jesus. In this episode, we step into one of the most painful parts of the storm, grief, deception, and the loss of a grandchild. This conversation is about what happens when the enemy uses heartbreak, lies, addiction, and confusion to try to destroy the family. But prayer keeps rising.
I realized what faith was, that hers was genuine. She wrote in her Bible. She dated things in her Bible. Her Bible was her legacy, her story.
I think a lot of people sit in church as well, and I think that they feel disqualified because a lot of these topics are not discussed.
Yes.
We always have a lot of self-doubt. You got to step out in faith. You got to really just trust God, and give it to God.
That even in those hard times, God's going to be there for me.
Valerie, in your book, Finding Hope When Storms Don't Cease, this part of your story, it carries deep grief. Would you share what happened surrounding the loss of your grandchild? That had to be so incredibly hard. And the girlfriend's lies, the emotional impact that it had on your family. And I'm sure with the boys in the situation that they were living in, that didn't help that either.
Right. Yeah. Well, it was right after David had went to his first rehab program.
Yeah.
He was 16 years old at the time. Matter of fact, he turned 16 2 days after he went there.
And David is the youngest,
He's
right?
the youngest,
Okay.
yes. And the marijuana that he was smoking made his blood pressure go sky high.
Oh, wow.
So they had the nurse there keeping it, monitoring him.
Yeah.
And she was cute young thing.
Yeah.
And he became very open with her. And it was really the first person that we saw him connecting with that he was actually opening up and sharing things.
Right.
And so once he left that facility, because he was only there a month, we had actually asked her if she would continue working with him because we felt like she was having a positive influence on some of his decisions. And
Yeah.
And it wasn't too long after that, though, we found out that they had more going on than,
Yeah.
just the,
Just a friendship.
yeah. And she became pregnant. So here he is, 16,
Oh,
going to have a
wow.
baby. And she was older than him. She was more mature than him.
Yeah.
She wasn't as mature for her age,
Right.
so we figured even with the age difference, their dad and I were 25 years apart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, you have to make a decision of, do you try to intervene
Right.
and drive them closer together and further away from you,
Right.
where their dad and I just decided that we were just going to trust God with this,
Mm-hmm.
and that maybe this was an answer to prayer that would turn David around.
Right. Kind
Because
of
he
settling
really-
him down a little bit,
Yeah.
maybe. Okay.
He really wanted this baby.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And so, we went through some of the first 20 weeks where we all got really close, and she was, in his life. But David was he was kind of still getting in a little bit of trouble, but he was doing better.
Right.
And of course, he was on an ankle bracelet, so he couldn't go to the doctor visits and things like that. But she started having a little bit of complications and was claiming that the baby had a heart defect, which she said she had had another child before that passed away from a birth defect like that. So, there was the rise of the concern, and we start, as we're in the court system in and out with David, we're asking them to please give the permission that he can go to court, or that he can go to the hospital
Yeah.
if there's an emergency of some kind.
Sure.
So that's what we did. She got closer and closer to 20 weeks. And all of a sudden, it was like every weekend there was a miscarriage scare. Every weekend she was going to the hospital.
Oh, wow.
Until one weekend, she texted and said that she had lost the baby. Well, we called David. I had his dad bring him up to my office at the time. We took him down to the basement and told him that he had lost his child.
Oh, my.
And he just bolted out of the building. We didn't know where he went. And it's like, how do you tell a 16-year-old that they just lost their firstborn, you know? And
Right. He's still a young kid
yes,
himself.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I go out and I finally find him in my car, and he's got his head buried down in his legs.
Oh, wow.
And all I could do was hold him and tell him that I was sorry.
Yeah.
So we get through that.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden she comes back and says, "Oops, I was wrong. I didn't lose the baby. It's
Yeah.
kicking and it's okay."
Oh, my.
And she just had us on an emotional roller coaster
Yeah.
weekend after weekend. And finally there was a snowstorm coming. And David he was still on the bracelet, but we did have permission that if there was any situations that he could go to the hospital. So it was getting later in the evening, and she was saying that she was having a lot of trouble. She was having some pain.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, do you want me to call and get permission to get him up to the hospital? And she says, no, just wait.
Yeah.
Well, she wanted to go to Indianapolis because it was a bigger hospital and because of the heart condition and everything.
Oh, okay.
So that's where she had planned to go. And all of a sudden at 11 o'clock at night, the communication just stops. And I thought, well, she must be feeling better or falling asleep or something. And I didn't hear any more until the next morning. And she texts and she says, "I lost the baby." And I'm like, well, can we get David up there? Because, he needs to be able to have closure too.
Right.
She refused to let him come up, didn't want him to see her in that condition.
Right.
And so we didn't really know what all happened. There just seemed to be a lot of missing pieces. But
Right.
David,
And I'm sure that made you start to question.
Yeah. David
Yeah.
just started kind of spiraling, and, he wanted to believe the things she was saying. He wanted the baby, didn't want to believe the baby's gone. He's just, it's just a mess.
Yeah.
And I had gone to tell him because he had been staying at a friend's, and he's like, she's probably just lying, Mom. But he dove right back into the alcohol and stuff, trying to mask his own pain.
Yeah.
And so I called the coroner, and I said,
Oh, wow.
I said, "Sir," I said, we just lost the baby, and I need to find out. I know that she's only 20 weeks, but is there any way that we could get a death certificate? Because it'd give him some kind of closure. I just want closure for him.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, ma'am," he says, "no, we don't give a death certificate at that age." But he says, "But ma'am, we don't have a fetus here." I'm like, "What do you mean you don't have a fetus
Oh,
there?"
my.
And I said, "Well, could she have been at some other hospital or, gone to Indy?" So he checked the facility where we thought she was at in her hometown.
Yeah.
And called me back, and he says, "Ma'am, there was nobody." And I said, "Well, what about Indy?" Because she talked about that. And he says, "Well, I don't have any jurisdiction there. I'm really sorry, I can't help you." And he says, I hope you can find what you're looking for." He says, "I've never heard of anything like this." So I get off the phone, and I'm just kind of dumbfounded at the whole thing. And I'm thinking, okay, so now what? Well, then I start looking at some of the pictures that she'd sent, because she had been sending ultrasound pictures. She sent 3D pictures.
Mm.
And I start looking at them, and I start Googling. And sure enough, she had pulled some of the pictures off of Google. So all this time, we're in this emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
And David ended up, it just sunk him
Relapse
into that a darker hole for him.
Yeah. My gracious. You wrote in your book, I was left with a broken heart and no real answers.
Yeah. Well, you don't realize how attached you can get to an unborn child.
Yes, absolutely.
But when you're, she was sending us pictures of the nursery, the clothes that she was going to buy, and all these things. And when David got pregnant, when she called to say, "We're pregnant," I had to make a decision right then. How am I going to handle this as a mom?
Yeah.
As a Christian mom.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm going to choose to love him. I'm going to choose to celebrate this baby
Right.
because
It's not
God
the
does not
child's
make any
fault.
mistakes.
That's right.
And,
Yes.
we're just gonna love them through this.
Right.
And they know it was wrong.
Yep.
And God will have to deal with them on that part.
Yeah.
But after that happened, I remember walking out of my office one day and I was heading to my car. And you just don't realize how much something affects you sometimes when you're trying to stay busy and you're trying to
Yeah.
keep your mind off of it.
Absolutely.
And I'm walking down the sidewalk and there's a couple behind me, young couple with their
Yeah.
little girl.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And they're swinging her and, and 1, 2, 3, jump, 1, 2, 3, jump. And it hit me like a ton of, just a brick.
Yeah.
And it was like all of a sudden, all this emotion and, wanting to cry. My heart is racing. And it's like, that could have been my son with his little girl.
Man.
And you just, God's gotta get you through stuff like that. And you keep focusing on the joyful things and allow time for healing.
Exactly. And that kind of probably would create some sort of bitterness, maybe. It would start to creep up. How did you fight against that?
David and I were driving home from work one day, and I said, David, I want to put her on the stand. I want to know what happened with this child because she had talked about going to an attorney. They were trying to sue the doctor about certain thing, and she was just kind of money hungry, and I'm like, I just want to put her on a stand and get the truth of what really happened to this baby because we didn't know what she did. Did she have a miscarriage that she was claiming to have? Did she have the baby early enough that she was still able to have it adopted, or did she sell it? There's different things that go on these days of what could she have done?
Yeah.
She was talking about making money. So it's like, did she sell it in some way? And matter of fact, I went to the police station and I acted like the crazy woman. And I'm like, we have a lost fetus. I just need to talk to somebody about a lost fetus. And they're like, what?
Yeah, I'm sure.
but I just wanted answers. And I said, David, I want to put her on the stand. I just want her to tell us the truth because I needed some closure too,
for sure.
And he needed it. And he's like, Mom, he says, would that do any good? Would ruining her life like she's ruined mine be right?
Wow.
And so my 16-year-old son is teaching me about forgiveness that day. And I know that he loved her and, that was, but he just didn't want to destroy her life. And
It was a pretty grown decision for 16.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
So
16 years old.
I let it go.
Where did you see spiritual warfare? I know that a lot of this is part of your story, but the spiritual warfare had to be pulling at you so hard that you didn't know which way you wanted to.
Well, and that was part of the whole deception thing. It's like you want to believe one way, but yet you kind of got this unction that there's something not right, but you don't want to think that they're lying to you. And it was this constant battle in my head of how much truth do I believe here? Mm-hmm. And you're trying to be supportive.
Right.
So, you're walking with her through that. Mm-hmm. But we did have a situation with Austin one night where I was standing in the kitchen and all of a sudden I noticed that I had this triptych painting of the Lord's Supper hanging on my wall. And I looked over and I saw the middle panel that had Jesus on it face down on my couch. And I had it Velcroed up there. So I'm thinking, well, that's really odd. So I go over, I look at the Velcro, everything's fine. It's attached to the wall, it's attached to the frame, everything's fine. And I'm like, how in the world has been hanging there for a year? And the moment that I saw that picture laying on face down though, I felt like the enemy was saying, where's your Jesus now?
Oh, wow.
So I go over, I hang it back up. And that night, about 11:30, I was asleep. David was home, Austin was gone. And I was asleep, and all of a sudden there was this thud right above me, and it was where Austin's room was, above my bedroom. And I mean, it jolted me out of the sleep.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what in the world? Because it almost sounded like a bookcase had fallen. It was so loud.
Mm.
And Austin wasn't home. So I thought, well, is David messing around in his room? So I go upstairs, I flip on the lights, and there's nothing. I mean, his room was totally clean and picked up. Oh my gosh. But there was nothing that could have made the sound. And David was in his bedroom asleep. So I go back downstairs and I'm heading back to bed, and I'm, really pondering the whole thing. And I walk down, and that center panel is back on the couch, face down again. Once again, where's your Jesus now? I get back, I hang it back up, and I'm like, okay, God, I don't know what's going on here. So I get back in bed. Actually, that had not fallen yet. That had not fallen. We just had the thud, and then I went back to bed, and about 3 o'clock in the morning, David had been notorious for sneaking out at night.
Uh-oh.
And so I'm laying there, and I was asleep, but all of a sudden I hear these running feet through the kitchen. And so I decided I was going to catch that little snot. So I jump up out of that bed. I fling that bedroom door open, and it opened up into our kitchen. And there's nothing. There's nobody there.
Really?
So, and I had heard the garage door. So I go to the garage door. I had to flip on the lights. There's nothing.
Yeah.
I go back upstairs, and again, Austin was not home. David was sound asleep in his room. So that's when I came downstairs, and I see that painting on the couch.
Again.
It was the second time.
Second time.
Yeah. And I'm like, what in the world is going on, God? And I know I heard somebody running through my kitchen. So I knew that there was spiritual warfare going on.
My gracious.
And it turned out the very next day we find out that Austin had been trying to break in. He had gotten drunk with a friend. They were walking up to Walmart to go get more alcohol. And the friend says, hey, let's go up here and see if we can break in this church and get some money out. And so it was just like the enemy saying, where's your Jesus now?
Yeah. They lived through a lot. What was some of those consequences that they actually walked through?
They were in and out of the system. They were, David went from the very minimal rehab home, or not rehab, but just a juvenile facility.
Yeah.
And continued to climb throughout his high school years.
Wow.
And, his senior year, he was at the Pendleton Juvenile Center, which was just, it's kind of like a prison. And the day that I had to pull up to there and see all the fences around and the wire across the top, it was just too much for Mom. We didn't get to see him that day, and it was kind of a good thing. But he just kept escalating. And Austin, he was in and out. His situation wasn't quite as bad as what David was going through, but it was still...
What did prayer look like, when the things that you felt like, I can't undo these things?
Yeah. Well, if you go back and you remember that I had the dream about that, or it wasn't really a dream, it was just God telling me that, if I stepped out in obedience and did some of these things, that I may have to be willing to lose my son.
Yeah.
And so I knew that we were going to have a rough road ahead, and I just had to continue trusting that he was going to walk with us through all of that.
Yeah.
But one of the things that happened was when I wanted to start sharing our story, and we were getting ready to have another presentation, I really started asking God that he would show me the truth about the baby. And I decided that I needed to forgive her. If nothing else, I personally needed to forgive her,
For sure.
no matter what the answers really were.
Right.
Even though I didn't have the answers. And so I texted her, and I just told her, I just want you to know that you're forgiven. And I just left it at that. Never thought I would hear from her. And she texted me back and said, can we talk? And she ended up telling me that she had an abortion is what happened. And so, it was
How long was it from that period of time?
I believe it was 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and she had been
So you were
struggling.
wrestling with this for
yes.
5 long years before you actually kind of knew what was going
Yes.
on.
And she said that she felt like God had caused me to text her because she had been battling for that 5 years. She had been just started going to counseling for it, and that he had led that phone call to help her to heal from that.
Wow. What did it require from you emotionally, and spiritually,
It was
to
tough.
pull from that?
It's tough.
Yeah.
You're
And I think your mind's going back to, my son just taught me
yeah,
to forgive.
right,
And so you're trying to wrestle with, how am I going to write this?
right.
How do you push through that,
I think sometimes that God just puts a covering over us
Yeah.
and helps you to mentally process it when you need to get a story down on paper like that.
Yeah.
There was a lot of tears, my wonderful
I'm
husband
sure.
Tim, he was, he'd hold me at times, just let me cry.
Right. Yeah.
And you just walk back through it all, but it was also a healing journey.
Yeah.
It was really a healing journey. So,
I guess it
good
gave you
things come out of
closure,
that.
didn't it?
It did.
Some sort of a closure.
Yeah, it did.
Especially with the boys and the situation of them going in and out, and
Right.
finally to have that closure, and then you could share that with your son and say, look, now we've confronted the real
Yes.
problem, so now we can move forward
Right.
from here. I mean, so once he found that out, did he relapse, or did he take that and try to build off of that?
He was clean for 2 years, and he just recently had the relapse. So, I just think that God's still
It's a
doing
battle.
something in him. And,
Yeah.
I got a little bit of a surprise one night because we knew that he was getting ready to turn himself in. And that showed me maturity right there.
Right.
And so he has like a little, I thought it was a dagger behind his ear, just a little tattoo.
Yeah.
And he had gotten his hair cut, and we were sitting there at supper just because we knew he was getting ready to leave.
Yeah.
And I said something about the dagger behind his ear, and he says, "That's not a dagger, Mom." I said, "It's not." And he says, "No, it's a cross." And I'm like,
What?
"Well, what did you do a cross?"
Yeah.
And he says, "I do love God, Mom." And that just gave me hope that he's
For
going to
sure.
be okay. I just really think that God is going to do a huge thing through him.
Yeah.
Through
I'm a true
whatever he's
believer
going
in
through
the
there.
foundation of what you've done, and a true believer in raise them up in the way that they should go. And, when they're older, they won't depart from it. So that's a clear sign that what you were doing, Valerie, was a witness to your son. It was a comfort to your son. It was showing him the right way, And so he was making some decisions that maybe wasn't too good in that point in time in his life. But it's the little things.
Yeah.
And I think those are God winks that says, you know what?
Yes.
You did the right thing, and you're doing the right thing. And I know that there's so many people that are out there that maybe have children that have walked through this, even not with just the addiction, but, walked through losing children, walked through abortion, that, that they're struggling with because, what
Right.
God says about
Yeah.
our children and, saving the lives of our kids. What would you say to the women out today that you need to pull from what God has taught you throughout your life?
Yeah. I would just say that, get your focus on him,
Yeah.
and he's not going to lead you astray. If you start, step in the wrong direction, he's going to take you back, and he's going to guide you.
Yeah.
But you really got to put your focus on him.
Yeah.
And what is it that he wants? Again, we've all got a calling and a purpose. You're here for a reason. You're still
Yes.
alive for a purpose.
Yes.
And, find out, start asking him, what is it that you want me to do? And start serving him.
Yeah.
And that changes people in a big way when they start serving and loving other people.
How about grieving? What would you say to someone that's grieving? Because I think a lot of people grieve different things.
Absolutely. And they grieve for different periods of time.
Yes.
Everybody is different.
Different.
And it wasn't this particular thing that I had the grief of, but there was another episode that I hit rock bottom. I had
Yeah.
never been so down in my entire life. And what I found was that, one morning I wake up and I hear the songbird out my window.
Yeah.
And at the time I could not experience any joy. And it was just very odd for me. I
Yeah.
didn't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
And when I heard that songbird, I'm like, oh, that's such a beautiful sound. I
Yeah.
just love the sound of the
Peace.
songbirds.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, that's joy. I remember now that's how I I felt joy. That's
Yeah.
what joy feels like.
Yeah.
And I intentionally every day started picking up a morsel that God would give me and finding joy in something. Was it the joy of the fluffy clouds in the blue sky? Was it the birds? Was it, watching the hummingbird? Was it listening to my boys laughing? Really,
Yeah.
it just gave me, but I had to be intentional.
Right.
And each day it
That's
got
the key.
better. Each day it got better and it
Yes.
pulled me back out of the slump.
Yeah. That's the key, is being intentional.
Yes. Very
Because you
much.
can't walk through what you've been through, with your boys and all the situations that you've came out of without intention,
Yeah.
and God leading you through your intention, that faith is a strong thing, you look at that and you think, well, faith is the size of a mustard seed. And you look at the mustard seed and you're like, that is so very tiny.
Right.
And if we could just have that kind of faith to get us through the things that you've walked through. I know that grief is real.
Yeah.
And I would just ask if you would pray over the people today that is watching and give them a comfort to know that a mustard seed is very tiny. That's all you have to have, is that much faith that you can pull yourself up and stand up and walk toward your purpose in God.
Yes. Lord, I just want to come to you today and ask that you reach these people that are really suffering right now, the ones who are grieving, the ones who are feeling like they're going in the wrong direction and they don't know what to do next. And I'm just going to speak to you right now that you get on your knees and God is going to help guide you. I promise you, he will guide you. He will give you the strength that you need. He will give you the courage that you need. And Lord, I just ask that you come around these folks, that you show them your love for them, and that you give them the support system that they need, because everybody needs that. And I found that I felt like I was completely alone. Nobody understood what I was going through. Nobody understood the battles and the amount of the craziness. And sometimes I think that a lot of people are in that situation and they just don't know where to turn. And for me, it was journaling, it was praying, it was getting on my knees before God. I surrounded myself with prayer. I surrounded myself with going to church. I surrounded myself with Christian music. I surrounded myself with pastors on the TV. I mean, I made sure that the enemy was not being able to continually whisper in my ear that I failed or I can't get through this. And so, Lord, I just ask that you reach out to these people and that you guide them and that you show them what is their next step. What is it that they personally need to do to be that overcomer? Because each and every one of you can become an overcomer too.
Yes. Thank you, Valerie, so much. I know grief is real, but so is the comfort of Jesus. Thank you for sharing that with us today.
Thank you.
From author Valerie Juillerat comes Finding Hope When Storms Don't Cease, an inspiring true story of extraordinary faith through unimaginable pain. Through teen addictions, abuse, spiritual battles, and a mother's relentless prayers, Valerie reveals how Christ brings hope, healing, and redemption even when the storm keeps raging. Discover the book that reminds every wounded heart God is still working in the storm. Purchase Finding Hope When Storms Don't Cease at faithwrittenforward.tv.
Every Christian book begins with a calling, a message God placed on someone's heart. At the International Christian Book Awards, we honor and elevate Christian authors who are using story, testimony, and truth to impact lives. Whether your book is already published, still being written, or only beginning as a dream, you're invited to the Author Elevate Conference and Gala September 12th. Submit your book for award consideration, connect with other faith-filled writers, and be encouraged to carry your message forward. Visit internationalchristianbookawards.com.
Grief is real, but so is comfort, the comfort of Jesus. Even in loss, he remains near. Until next time, keep writing faith forward.
Thank you for watching Faith Written Forward, where we carry God's message through story. This program is possible through viewers like you and our faithful partners. Your support helps us to share the stories of Christian authors and the messages of hope and encouragement to expand our reach to lives across the world. Become a partner or sponsor today at faithwrittenforward.tv. We thank you. Until next time, keep moving forward in faith.